See? It works. Hey.
Worth repeating.
Dennis, my friend, it is still daylight at 9:30 p.m. It's going to be daylight at 10:30 when we finish, too.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that strange
It's crazy.
time of the year in Michigan. I was in 10:30 p.m. driving in the sun. I mean, like the middle of the day. I was up in the northern part of Michigan, where you've been, over toward the Wisconsin line, where the two
Wisconsin.
peninsulas joined.
Peninsulas, yes.
We had a prison up there. There were more people who worked in the prison from Wisconsin than there were from Michigan. It's one of the reasons I encourage that we close it, because it didn't hurt our work. It didn't hurt our economy. They're not spending money in Michigan. They're spending all their money in Wisconsin. Fuck that.
Too many cheeseheads.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying.
They're sacred,
Fucking cheeseheads.
Green Bay Packers that they own.
Yeah.
I'm a co-owner. Are you a fan? No, I'm a co-owner. Oh yeah, of course.
Oh really? They've got like some sort of a co-op deal?
Oh yeah. That's the only reason that a town the size of Green Bay can support forever an NFL. That is a little podunk of a town.
Okay. This is new. Like I never knew that history.
Oh no, there's nothing to it. It's a stadium, and then some people live there, but everybody owns it. So it's the only such business model in the country, and quite successful. And I've loved them over the years. I loved Brett Favre before he started taking pictures of his dick and sending them to people.
Yeah.
And of course, he suffered from not knowing when to retire.
Right.
It's like Tom Brady knew. You know what? I'm going out on top. I'm done. You just got to know when it's time to go.
So, how's your retirement going?
Oh, I'm a shit, man. I'm doing great working. I love the work I'm doing. I'm getting paid again, man. It's
I'm sure that's
it's
what
been
Brett
a
thought.
long spell since COVID.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm getting paid well.
Nice.
And it's work I love to do, and it's well paced. Nonetheless, I'm relaunching the Handyman, the Deschamps Handyman, little company. Keep my son working all summer. Building a fence in the neighbor's yard, and then finishing the restoration on a friend's garage that has some rotted wood. What's that?
You should call it defense.
Defense.
Yes.
Defense and degarage. That's what I'm working on. Defense and degarage. But the latter should be several weeks of work. So I'm hoping to be able to get my son set and me do some of my higher paying consultant work while he's working.
Nice.
And when he works, I make money too, because I'm his boss, and that's the way the world works.
A fucking man.
But we took a little year visit. Where did you go? Greece?
I have some stories. I have some travel woes.
Well, tell stories. We traveled too, but I would rather hear about your European wanderings than me going to the west coast of Michigan yet again.
Yeah. So I traveled to Athens, Greece, and my flights were total shit. Like, I don't understand how the airlines get away with having such shit flights. And at the time, 3 months ago, I guess I booked the flights, or someone helping organize the conference booked the flights. I don't recall, but it and it was like, yeah, flights from, and it was a direct flight. I was like, a direct flight from my little podunk airport in the north of Spain all the way to Athens. That's amazing. Like, no layovers. That's great.
Too good to be true.
Too good to be true. So the flight was it was the last flight of the day in the entire airport. It was.
That's dangerous.
It was at 11 p.m. and it was a 3-hour flight going going one time zone to the east. So
4 hours.
Well, so it was a 3-hour flight, but I left at 11 and I arrived at 3 a.m.
Oh, so you lost time, hours.
Right. So I arrived at 3 a.m. and
So the flight was fine?
the flight was fine. I slept on the flight, but I woke up and my knee really hurt because I don't know. I'd been motionless for too long or something. Anyway, I got there and I opened up the Uber app and I was like, Uber, take me to this place where I have lodging. And the way Uber works in Greece apparently is that all the taxis are also Uber drivers, which makes a lot of sense. And all the taxis are in yellow cars, as happens in other places. And so the guy pulled up. It was very quick, and he took me into the city. There was 0 traffic because it was 3 fucking a.m. And it was like a 45-minute drive into the city, and we got there to the place where my lodging was supposed to be, and and the
first problem, 4 a.m.
it was 4 a.m. and the taxi driver was like, "This doesn't look like a hotel," and I was like, "No, it's not a hotel. They booked the conference by accident on the same 2 days that there was a big Coldplay concert in Athens. So all the hotels were booked. So we all were booked in like rental apartments, like not Airbnb, but stuff similar. And
Scattered.
Yeah. Which would be fine, but turns out because I was arriving so my flight left at 11 p.m. on June 6th, and I arrived at 3 a.m. on June 7th, and my hotel booking started on June 7th because that was when I arrived.
Of course.
But that's not the night of June 6th, is it?
June 7th begins at midnight.
Yeah, but that's not when your hotel booking starts. Your hotel booking is for the night of June 7th. Oh,
because the check-in time is 3 p.m. on the day of check-in.
Precisely.
You were.
I was 12 hours early.
Not even a day early.
Yeah.
12 hours early. 11. Yes.
So I was there, and it was like, there's nothing here. There was no, like, eventually it would be a matter of they would send me a document that had like a code I would type in and then another code to get into my room. But I had none of those things. And so I was there, and I told the poor Uber / taxi driver, "You've done your job. Just, you can leave me here. Go. Like, you don't need to."
And where were you in relation to the city? Near businesses?
No, I was in the city center. I was looking up at the Acropolis, which is in the center of the city, where the Parthenon is, but I was there at 4 a.m. and at 4 a.m. there is no one in the streets. It's more or less like the little town I live in here, where if I open my window at 4 a.m. and I stick my head out, I will not hear a single car, a single nothing. Like, it's just dead.
Right.
And so I was there at 4 a.m. I had a beautiful view up at the lit Acropolis that was on the horizon, and I was like, well, shit, I don't have a place to stay tonight. I'm dead tired.
Of course.
So I first, and my only company were some cats, some street cats that were like running around, because there were no humans. And so I looked on the map, and I found a little, what looked like a park with, I don't know, grass maybe. But when I got there, it was really just dirt, and I had to like climb over a fence sort of thing. And I'm there with my suitcase and my backpack with a couple laptops in it, and so I lay down briefly in the dirt because what the fuck am I gonna do? I'm in
my trip. How I spent my summer vacation. My trip to Athens.
Right.
Laying in the dirt, and other funny stories.
So here I am thinking, like, I bet Socrates laid in the dirt around here somewhere.
Oh yeah, right. When the apple hit him on the head, right?
Yeah, right. So I was laying there in the dirt for a while, and then a couple of ants crawled on me and stuff, and I was like, all right, I'm going to stand up and walk around. And at that point, I wasn't really sleepy because I had sort of slept on the plane, and so I looked for places open 24 hours.
Right, of course.
Right, and the places open 24 hours turns out, bakeries.
Oh.
Because the bakers get up at 3 a.m. to start kneading dough and shit to make breakfast pastries for the humans.
That's where you found yourself.
Well, and so I wandered around. Well, okay, no. Before I did that, I looked for hotels, and I found a couple of hotels, and I wandered in, and the first one, there was nobody in the lobby, and I was like, okay, well, and I sort of like put my shit down and sat down.
You could have slept there.
Right, and then some guy came around. He was like moving shit around, and I said, hey, I don't suppose you have a room? And he was like, no rooms. And I said, could I trouble you for a bottle of water? Bottle of water, please. And he was like, here, just take it. I'm not going to charge you anything. But the implication was you can't stay here.
Yeah, get the fuck out.
And so I was like, I was very grateful for the bottle of water because I was actually thirsty. Because it was warm. It was like, in Fahrenheit, it was probably 75 degrees out in the street. At 4 a.m.
Yeah, right.
So then I wandered around some more, and I had my long pants on because I had been traveling, and so I wandered around some more, and I found another hotel lobby, and they were like, "Nah, we're all booked. You can't be here."
Right.
And fine. So then I found this bakery place. And there was a lady at the bakery that was like, she wasn't doing much. She was like, with some tongs, she was like moving pastries around. And then she would move them around again. And there was a guy there that was there talking to her. And I said, hey, can I get a bottle of water and maybe one of those cheese and ham pastries that you have there? And she was like, sure. And this was
cheese and ham. What, stuffed in a pastry?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
It was damn good. It was damn good. I have to
That's
say.
enough to resuscitate you for an hour, huh?
Right. So now, we're like at 5 a.m. We'll say, and the guy that was there struck up a conversation. He was like, "So, where are you from?" And I was like, I need to learn I need to learn when I travel to say Spain when they say where I'm from, because that almost always shuts things down. But as opposed to, I'm from the States, and they're like, well, where are you from? And they're like, well, I've got a cousin in Utah or whatever. But in this case, I said from the States, but I live in Spain. And then he like switched over to Spanish, and I was like, okay. And this is a guy that apparently he's Greek. He was home visiting his friends, but he lives in the States, but he spent a bunch of time in Spain, and he was just sitting there, with a coffee, talking to this local lady. And I was like, so what are you doing here? And it's like, well, I'm home for a while, and I went out with some friends, and all the people that I met, of course, at 3 a.m. were people that were still up from the night before partying.
Sure, of course.
And at 4 or 5 a.m. But he was lovely. He knew a lot about Spain. Anyway. So I had my little ham and cheese thing there, and then I walked around a little bit more, and I found another bakery where they were preparing, at 5 a.m. they were really full on making sandwiches and wrapping them like proper sandwiches and cutting them in half and preparing them to have at 8 a.m.
When people come by to pick up their lunch.
Right, lots and lots of, or for breakfast, lots and lots of sandwiches available. And so I went, this was 200 yards away from the previous place. But they had a place for me to sit on a stool and outside. But anyway, so I sat there for a while, and I opened up my laptop, and I did my final tweaks on my presentation, which if I had not done that, it would have been a total disaster. So because I was such a fucking lazy bastard.
They sound like more than final tweaks.
Yeah,
they
right.
Sound
I fixed a lot of mistakes. And
that you had known about previously, or you?
No, I discovered when I was there.
Oh, when you were editing?
When I was
so
editing,
you didn't know how important it was.
I was like,
you didn't know how
this is all wrong.
Was.
Let me fix this.
I that happens to me sometimes, and I say out loud to my computer, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah. So this was 6 8. The sun is coming out because the sun comes out at 5 a.m. there in June, and whoa, I didn't mean to. So I sat there for a while. I ordered a Diet Coke, and I sat there for 2 hours on this horrible hard bench. And
reading?
No, fixing my.
Oh, you're fixing your thing. And no back on the chair.
No back on the chair.
And what was it? What was the ass thing made out of?
It was wood.
Just wood.
The ass thing. Yes.
I got a skinny ass now that I'm getting old.
And it was.
I've lost.
And my
I
comfort.
can't sit like
my
that.
comfort position was leaning on the chair, leaning on the stool, which hurt more than sitting up on it. Anyway, then I finished my stuff, and I realized, oh shit, I'm tired. I'm really tired.
You got to close your eyes.
And so, but at that point it was 7 a.m. and I realized at 7 a.m. you can go to any hotel lobby, and there are going to be tourists that are up and getting ready for breakfast and stuff. And so a guy with a suitcase and a backpack can be in a hotel lobby and
fall asleep
and be sitting on a sofa and be cool. And then I lucked into a hotel where you go in from the street and you go up to the reception and the breakfast area, but you could go down to where there were conference areas and a bathroom and a little sofa.
Oh, sweet.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to go down here.
This is where I live now.
Yes, I went to the bathroom.
That's my sofa.
I took advantage of the bathroom, so to speak, and then for the first time ever, forever, in my backpack that I travel with, I carry some these things that they give you on long haul flights sometimes. The little
earplugs.
No, the
eye shades.
Eye shades, and I was like, I'm gonna pull this out of its little Ziploc bag here, and I put those on, and I was aware of an American couple that came and sat next to me briefly, and were having some argument about where to go that day, but I was able to more or less sleep for like 2 hours from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m.
Snooze.
Yeah.
You snooze. It's not a deep sleep. It's not a REM sleep, but it's not without its benefits.
Indeed. So then at 9 a.m., I got up and I was like, I should probably change location because they probably, have noticed me here or something. I don't know. I was paranoid. But like, I've always had this belief that if you're confident enough, you can walk into any hotel.
I'm the same way.
You can walk into any hotel and have fucking breakfast.
Yep.
You just walk in and be like, all right, I'm here for the buffet. I'm going to have breakfast.
Yep.
Which I didn't, but I was like,
right, but
I could.
But that was your attitude.
Yeah. So,
that was your devil may care attitude. I belong here. No one will question me.
Right, I look like all the other.
If they question you, you'll turn it on them.
I look like all the.
I know I belong here. Who are you?
Right. I look like all the other fucking Americans. But I had already gone to the reception a couple times and asked for them to help me call the number for the apartment that I was staying at. And it was
and that wasn't going to open till 3 in the afternoon.
No. You said that, but yes, it was. Yeah, that's more or less. So.
Well. So what's the matter whether I said it?
Yeah.
You're accusing me of being right?
It was like 2 p.m.
Okay.
So, but like 2 p.m. was when we as a group of speakers were going to go on like a walking tour of Athens. And I was
Lord.
like, fuck, like it'd be great if I could sleep a little bit before then.
Because you were going to do that no matter what.
Well, I was very seriously considering canceling because, like, I can't.
Because you wouldn't be physically able to do it.
Right.
Would be the only.
So, let's see, we're at 9 a.m. And 9 a.m. I collect my things and I leave and I find an even nicer hotel. I didn't realize there were nicer hotels, but I found a really, really nice one. And there I set up my stuff and I was like charging my phones and equipment and stuff because, of course, my devices are as tired as I am. And from there, I decided to, now that it's a reasonable hour, I texted the organizer and I said, hey.
And said, what the fuck?
No. I said, hey, between whoever booked my flights and myself, and I am entirely responsible for this. This is entirely on me. We fucked up, and we booked my hotel at
blah blah blah.
So for the night after the early morning that I arrive, and that kind of sucks. Also, my return flight, which I have not told you about. So I flew on a Thursday.
We have an hour. Take your time.
Yeah, I flew on a Thursday night. I arrived on a Friday early morning. And my return flight was supposed to be on Sunday. So...
That's a quick trip.
No. So the events were Friday walking tour, Saturday conference, Sunday bus tour around Greece, and then on Sunday night, and when I say Sunday night, I really mean at 4 a.m. on Monday morning. There's a flight from 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. back to Spain. I think it's the same fucking airplane. the same airplane that arrives at 3 a.m. leaves at 4 a.m. to go back to this.
They love those hours. They love those late
and
hours.
it's like, who? So I would have. So anyway, in this text, I said we should have booked my stay for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, because Sunday I don't need to stay anywhere because I'm just gonna stay up all night and go to the airport. Like, I'm not gonna sleep that night.
Right.
So, and so anyway, this organizer who is a friend of mine and now is even more of a friend of mine, said, "Oh shit, that sucks. Send me your location. I'm gonna drop everything and go to you right now, and we're gonna go have a coffee and talk about this." And I was like, damn, okay. I'm in this hotel lobby, hanging out with these rich American people who are like already bathing in the pool at 9 a.m. And so he came like 45 minutes later. He got there and took me to a nearby coffee shop that he knew about, and I had already walked by like 4 times because I know the neighborhood. And we sat down, and he said, "Look, I'm gonna fix this. We're gonna rebook your flight back home." And I said, "I've already looked. The flights are terrible. Like there's
few and far between.
There are no options." And he was like, "Hold on. I'm so he's Greek, but he lives in the UK, and he's like, I am a British Airways, gold member or whatever. Let me look." And he found flights back that were instead of on Monday at 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. Oh, and by the way, when I told my wife and family, "Hey, I'm going to be arriving at 7 a.m., my father-in-law was like, "Yeah, right. The airport's an hour away. I'll pick you up at like 9:30 or something. I'm not getting up at 6 to come pick you up."
Yeah, 6. Right.
Because fuck that. And to of course, like I wouldn't do that for me either. So anyway, there's he rebooks flights on Monday that leave at like 2 p.m. and arrive at like 8 p.m. Like I had to go. Rather than a direct, I had to change once in Madrid, but it was fine. And also, he said this is like 700 pounds, British pounds. But if I use my miles, it comes down to 100 pounds, and you're in business class. And I was like, okay, I've never been in business class before. This is a new thing for me. Cool.
Boy, I tell you what, I've been in it. I've been in the seats that turn into beds, man.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what,
well,
there's nothing like it.
Yeah, and so this was my first. Whoa! Stop that camera.
So what did your man do for you? Did you end up sleeping before your tour?
Right. So he called the guy that rents the apartment.
Yeah.
And speaking Greek, obviously, he said, okay. He's going to prioritize the cleaning lady to do your apartment first, so you can get in at 12.
Oh, and this was at 7ish?
No. By this time it was like 10 a.m.
Oh, wow! You're well on your way. And what time was the tour?
The tour was at 2 p.m.
Uh-huh.
And so we spent way longer than it should take to fuck around with the airline websites because they're all shit. They're so bad. And we had a lovely coffee and a pastrami at this place that was fucking to die for. It was amazing. The crispiest fucking bread, like.
With sauerkraut and Thousand Island?
No sauerkraut. There was some mustardy tang to it, but it was it was just like
Pastrami's great when it's cooked right.
Every bite was just like wow.
When it's not, it gets all stringy and fatty.
And this is when I was introduced to the Greek iced coffee called Freddo. Freddo.
Hey,
Fred.
there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go, and there you are. As we ended last episode. And so it was, so at 12, I was able to go, and we had, because I was already there, like, it was like a block away to get to where I was, to get to where I was staying. And I was able to get in, and I was able to nap for 2 hours, basically. Boy, was that some glorious, glorious sleep. Like,
and there you were, checked in early, and it actually turned out much better than it certainly looked like it was going to.
It could have gone really, 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 really worse, but by 2 p.m., I was like, he had a bunch of shit to organize for the conference the next day, and so he stayed at the little cafe and was working on his laptop the whole time. And so I returned at 2, and then we went out for a walk, and then we walked around walked around. We met up with the other speakers that were there.
How many?
For that walk, there were maybe like 7 or 8, and then when we walked around, and he was like, and this is where there used to be an amazing thing here, and here's where, this is where all the tourists go, but the best place to get these special Greek donuts is down here, and we're going to go down there and get some donuts. And just generally a good tour, but the kind of one that's kind of
And how
funny.
big is Athens? I mean, it's like walking around what American city?
I can't even,
Size.
because American
You don't even
cities
know.
you can't walk around.
Yes, you can. You can. San Francisco, you can walk from one end of the city to the other.
Yeah.
That's one I always think about anyway.
All right. So
I walked in Atlanta, if you want to talk about stupid.
So the whole time I was there, from my apartment to walk to anywhere where there was anything happening, meaning all the speakers' dinners and the restaurants and everything, the walk was under 30 minutes.
Huh.
Some of those walks were up some steep hills and down some steep hills, but
Yeah.
they were doable. So anyway, that was my the way that I got there, and coming back was so when I checked in coming back, they were like, "Oh well, sir, you're on business class, so you have access to this Sky Lounge," and I'd never been in the Sky Lounge before.
Oh, really?
No, I travel all the
Really?
time, but I don't have miles.
Yeah.
I don't get those
Right,
perks.
right. I was a member for years.
I traveled-
It's extraordinary, isn't it?
I travel cheap as shit. So
It's extraordinary,
You go in
isn't it?
there and it's like
Free drinks.
you're not there with all the other with all the other human scum, and like there's
Human scum.
there's wine and there's
Jesus.
pastries and there's
The scotch.
well, I don't know about the scotch, but
Oh, yeah.
there's coffee and I only had the time to be there for like 25 minutes or so because
Well, right. That's too bad. I've been in them for 2 and 3 hours. It's astounding.
yeah.
It's astounding. I mean,
And it's like this is how the rich live, which
yeah.
was
Well, or the rich or the privileged. I'm not sure about rich, but
well.
I was privileged. I wasn't rich.
Well, you spend a bunch of money on someone spend a bunch of money on your behalf to get you
That made me privileged,
right,
not rich.
right. But
Just say.
and that was interesting. And then on my flight home from Greece to Spain, it was a 3-hour flight, and there were like that's not a thing in Europe that you would have like a meal service for. But for the business class, hell yes, there's a meal service. And it was, darn, I saved the menu to read it out to you, but I have left it somewhere else. But it was a beautiful little salad with green bean thing for a starter. And then for the second course, you could choose from a oven baked hake with whatever. And then what I chose was the artichoke stuffed ravioli with an artichoke flour on top of it in a cream sauce. And it was just like, Jesus Christ, with a fine.
This is how the 3% travel.
With a fine Spanish wine, and bread and olive oil and butter, and it was just like, Jesus. And it was delicious. It was the best airline food I've ever had. Like, because I travel in coach all the time, and that's
and your buddy is now your big buddy.
Right, and so, but my other buddy from that particular flight is when I got in, I was like in the fourth row, and I swear the people on rows on 1, 2, and 3 look richer than the people in the fourth row. Like, I think there's actually like a class system within the business class, but that's my theory.
It means they booked earlier.
Right, they had their minions book earlier, yeah. And
yeah.
So, and I had booked, just the other fucking day, obviously.
Right.
But so I was there, and I was on the window, and everyone in business class, there were on each side of the aisle there were 3 seats, and there was no one in the middle seat because fucking rich people, right? And I was on the window, and on the aisle was this 50-something Chinese guy who didn't speak a lick of English or Spanish. And he was seated first, and I came in, and I was like, I need to go over there, and he let me through. And we took off, and I was exhausted because I'd been partying until 1:30 a.m. 2 nights in a row. We'll get to that later, maybe.
And wait a minute.
And
that's the rest of the story.
And so we took off. I closed the shades, and I was just like laying back, but then I was starting to get cold because I had taken off from 80-degree Athens, and I was still wearing shorts, and it was starting to get cold in there. And so I said, "Hey, can I pass over and get my sweater from my backpack so I can put it over my legs?" Of course, I didn't say that. I just said, "Hey, can I go?" And so I did, and then I sat back down, and I opened the shade briefly, and I looked out, and then he looked over at me and was like, "Hey, can I?" Like, with his hands, he said, "Could I look out the window?" And I was like, "Sure, whatever." So I got up and I let him go over to the window seat, thinking, oh, he just wants to look out the window briefly. And he got over there, and then he like moved all his shit over to the window seat. And I was like,
did you care?
I was, well, at first I was like, what the fuck? But
that's easy access.
But like,
I'll see.
But we couldn't talk about it, right? I couldn't
right.
explain anything. I couldn't, and so I've got long legs. I don't mind the aisle.
No good deed goes unpunished.
So I don't mind, being on the aisle. Plus, I wasn't really gonna spend the whole flight looking out the window. Right. So whatever. So fine. But he spends the entire flight looking out the window
with the shade open,
like a child that has never been in an airplane before. He took 100 photographs with his phone out the window. He was like,
Did that annoy you?
He was like, oh my god, like he was. No, it didn't annoy me at all. Like, I mean,
Okay.
it would have been nice if it had been closed, but no, he was just so happy to be able to be in the sky and look down at the ground and take photographs, and it reminded me that sometimes just the smallest little gesture of
Kindness.
of kindness that results in a tiny bit of annoyance can result in so much joy for someone else. And I was just like, damn, okay, that's a lesson for life. So
That's nice.
yeah.
That's nice. And so now, that thing you said about you partied 2 nights straight till 1:30 in the morning. Let's start with the first party. And so tell me, that was after the tour. I would
Yes.
imagine that after the tour you ate dinner and then it turned into some drinking, maybe even a dance club if I've got Athens in my head correctly.
Okay, so after the tour, there was a scheduled speaker dinner where we would get together and have cocktails and finger food, but the tour ended at around 4 p.m. where the 9 or 10 of us that were on the tour arrived at a restaurant that our host was very careful to only try places that he had been to and could vouch for. So we walked around a couple times, and there were some places that were too full, and eventually we found a place, and we let him order just a smattering of Greek food for us. This was at 4 p.m., and he ordered an awful lot of food. We were hungry because it was 4 p.m., and we hadn't had lunch, or at least I hadn't.
So entree after entree with everyone with dishes and buffet style.
It was everyone was sharing everything in the Spanish
sure.
way, and it was just all really amazing. And there were bottles of beer passed around and pitchers of wine, and it was just really, really, really nice. And so we got up from there, and we were like, oh, we're kind of full. And he was like, I know a good place to go for coffee. So we went to a place for coffee, and there at that point it was like 7:45, 8 p.m. And he said, well, our speakers dinner starts at 9:30. So if you guys want to go and have a shower or something before our dinner, then that's the time. And so I walked back to my place. Again, it was like a 22-minute walk, and took a shower. Then walked like another 20 minutes or whatever to where our cocktail lounge was. And the cocktail lounge was on a rooftop with looking at the Acropolis, with the sun. Hold on, the sun setting over the Acropolis.
Oh, you're so funny.
The sun setting.
I went to the hardware store.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
sun setting over the Acropolis, over the Parthenon, over the temple to Athena, the goddess of wisdom, and there we had some cocktails, but like those of us that had participated earlier were not hungry at all. There was some
Music.
There was some finger food. No, not a lot of music. It wasn't, which was good because what we wanted was to talk, to meet each other, and that was amazing. And that was the night before the conference, right? So everyone's nervous about well, I gotta speak tomorrow. I can't get super wasted. So that and also I was dead tired because I had slept 3 hours that night. So I was like, yeah, all right, let's I think at like 11 or something
You get to a point, where it's like It's actually the booze that keeps you going. It's kind of an odd thing.
Yeah, right. Like that's booze is ultimately a depressant, but ultimately, but at first there's an accelerant that gives you energy.
Well, it's the combination of the immediate effect of the alcohol and an environmental entertainment or communication or people-to-people energy, or to me what happens is more environmental than personal.
Yes.
So if in a place where there's a little backbeat going on and the vibe is good and people are chatting, and I'll tell you what,
this place, they gave us they issued us one drink ticket per person, and that was good for a beer, a wine, or like a gin and tonic or a rum and coke or
mixed
something.
drink.
A mixed, but like a simple mixed drink.
A one-shot mixed drink.
Yeah, and
single shot.
But
drink.
the waiter, apparently, one of my friends had some trouble because he went with like he went with one ticket, and like the waiter wanted to spend the ticket on the cheaper of the options, obviously, because capitalism. And he was like, no, I want to spend the ticket on the gin and tonic, and then I want to pay for the beer. But Jesus, I paid for one round, and the beers were €7 for just a bottle, which is like
what's a euro?
Which is like $9 for a bottle, which is fucking pricey.
Good price.
Well, good for them.
Yeah, I go to my local bar and get a Michigan Amber on tap during happy hour, and the beer is, one place is $2.75 and the other place is $3.
Right, exactly. Like that's the way it is in Spain too. Like this, no. But this was like that if your beers cost $12 each. Like that's how, because you're on the fucking rooftop, whatever.
Well,
fine.
No complaints. Just establishing it.
So
what is, and so that went to 1:30.
No. That didn't. That was the first night, and then.
When did that end?
Well, I think at like
11:30?
11:30. I was probably in bed, but again. I had to get up at,
you'd been up a bit.
7:30 or whatever the next morning to get...
Well, you a comfortable bed and all that?
Yes. So I was told by the organizer not to tell the other speakers, but I had one of the nicer apartments. And there was...
Apartment meaning what?
Yeah, there was a bedroom and I was on the ground floor, more or less, and... I had a bedroom and a living room,
sitting room,
two bathrooms, one like very tiny and the other also tiny, and a little kitchen, and but apparently some of the other speakers were in even tinier places.
So you didn't use the kitchen at all?
No.
Coffee?
No, not at the place. But the bed was lovely. There was an air conditioner, which was nice because otherwise it would have been way too freaking hot to sleep, which was good.
Yeah.
And so then I woke up and it was conference day, and I found a way to get to the conference was like a 35-minute walk away, and I was like, I'm gonna take a taxi.
So Uber, sure.
And I got there, and the conference was at a theater named after a famous Greek director called Michael something. He won an Oscar for
Pina?
No. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. He won an Oscar in like the '60s for a Greek movie, and then another for like he won one that was a proper Oscar and another that was like a best foreign film. This theater was named after him, and it was the first time I've been in a venue that was like a proper theater where, like the place where where we could store our laptops and stuff was in like an actual dressing room right off the stage, where there were like mirrors and stuff. There was like a shower, and it was clearly made for people that were getting ready to get all made up and go out and act, which was nice.
Yeah.
Nice, different. Anyway.
So you're on a stage.
Yes.
And there's people in the seating, which is tiered.
Yes.
And so an interlude story before I forget. I had such an opportunity in a theater-like setting, but it was a classroom set up like that, I believe, at the University of Michigan. And it was set with a screen as big as God knows how to make behind you and a little lectern on a huge stage, but you could fit 1,100 people in there, and it was all tiered seating. Well, for my particular talk, there were about a third of the seats were taken, maybe a little more. And as I was doing the talk, I realized there were a relatively, a percentage of people just not paying attention at all. But they were there, and there were CUs involved, et cetera, et cetera. And I got partway through it, and I got annoyed at the fact that people were really just not paying attention whatsoever. And so I had my laser pointer, which I was using for my PowerPoint presentation, and circling different pieces of data and different particular points, because I assume in my presentation, as I'm sure you do, that they can read what's on the screen. I'm talking about other shit. Mm-hmm. So they're getting two piles of information at once. And I said, I realized that in a hall this size that it might be difficult to pay attention, and that, in fact, some of you aren't paying attention at all. For those of you who are, I'm thankful, and I kind of waved to the different sections of this huge auditorium where I could see people paying attention. And I said, but I want to draw your attention to the man in the upper left-hand corner, because I am going to start putting my laser pointer on his newspaper. And I started doing the cat game with his newspaper until everybody who was paying attention was riveted, and it got to be pretty funny. Mm-hmm. And then I returned to my script. The guy with the newspaper, I believe, discovered what was happening and was not a happy camper. And I remember saying to him, "Oh, hello. Welcome to the group."
Yeah, that's funny, but
cringy?
A little cringy. A little on the cringy side.
Well, fuck it.
Yeah. But so I
mean, why even sit there if you're going to read the newspaper and collect your credit? That's crooked.
I did so many crossword puzzles in my university classes. So many. I got really good at crossword puzzles in my physics class.
Because you knew the material?
Because I knew the material, and...
Well, that's different than what I'm talking about here. This guy doesn't know the material. This isn't that.
But he's paying. I don't know. So my talk was at 3 p.m., which is always kind of complicated because it's after lunch, but it wasn't the last one, which is nice. And then after that, we went out, again, organized by the organizer. Like, he took us to an amazing restaurant where we had more amazing food, and also
Same kind of setup with shared entrees galore.
Yeah.
Same guy.
Same organizer. Yeah, and then we pulled out. Well, no. Let's see. Immediately after, we went up like on the rooftop. It wasn't really a rooftop, but we went up on top of the. There's a balcony on top of the theater place, and we had lots of just wine and cheese and stuff up there. And then at our dinner place, we had a liqueur called Ouzo.
Oh, just had some 3 weeks
Familiar
ago.
with Ouzo?
Passed.
Yes.
Ouzo.
So,
I pull out my handkerchief and
yes.
dance when it's served.
So Ouzo is 40% alcohol, which in American is 80 proof. And boy, it goes down smooth. It's just it's just good.
It's a great celebratory communal drink
with or without ice. Like,
so much culture behind it. I mean, the Greek wedding dance is around glasses of ouzo.
Yeah.
Where there's 2 shot glasses for the bride and the groom, and all the men in the room are dancing with their handkerchiefs in a circle around the glasses of ouzo, which ends up being drunk. But it's I've attended these Greek weddings where ouzo is not just a drink. It is like the greatest person who was invited to the wedding. The ouzo.
Ouzo Booze-O.
Ouzo.
Yes.
Ouzo.
So we had quite a bit of that, and then I have vague recollections of sharing a taxi back to the hotel. But then, like, I went to bed
to the hotel. You mean your apartment?
Yeah, to my to my exactly to my personal bed. Yes, and then we were going to meet again at like 9:30 in the morning. So like we finished it at 1:30, and it was like, okay, at 9:30 you have to actually be in a place to meet to catch a bus, which means 6 or 7 hours of sleep, if you want to shower or whatever. And so then we got to this place where we caught a bus, and they took us around counterclockwise around the peninsula that Athens is on. Like we traveled all along this beach-laden path. Beautiful, beautiful beaches.
In what, golf carts?
No, in a bus.
Oh, bus.
There were 15 of us in a bus that seats 40.
Oh, yeah.
But, just things happen. And
so this seems like how many attendees were there for all of this balderall?
Okay, so there were like 25 speakers, and there were probably 400 attendees or something. 500.
That's a good number.
And the day after tour was available to not only speakers but also attendees. So not all of the speakers came, but some of the attendees came. So it was a nice mixture. And we drove around, and just the most beautiful beaches. And I didn't realize that it was going to be like a hour-and-a-half bus ride before we stopped the first time. But it was just beautiful, beautiful beaches and people out swimming in the water, and I was so envious. And I was like, I didn't bring my swimsuit, just looking out at the people in the water. And but then I started to doze off. It was just like there's just amazing picturesque beach after picturesque beach. And finally I was just like, okay, it's just more of the same. And I started to get a little, I was in the front of the bus, but still started to get a little dizzy. I was going to close my eyes. And eventually we got to a place called the Temple of Poseidon, the god of, what Poseidon the god of?
Seas.
Very good. And it was this old ruin that still had quite a few columns up, but it was on this hilltop looking over the sea. And we stopped there. We got out and had some coffee.
Ouzo.
Some coffee. This was at this like 11 a.m. And then we walked up and saw the Temple of Poseidon, and like I've always been sort of aware from photos, but holy shit, the sea in Greece is the bluest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's so fucking blue. Like
Yeah.
I picture blue, and this is bluer.
Yeah.
It's just so, I don't know why or what it is, but
Yeah.
it's just so fucking blue.
There's certain minerals and minerals in water that catch the sun a certain way. There's a river in Alaska called the Kenai River, and it is turquoise. It is turquoise like turquoise.
Yeah.
And you can't look at it and not say out loud, is what I'm looking at real?
Right.
How can it be real?
Right.
Which is really stupid, because if there's anything in the picture that's not real, it's you,
Exactly.
not the color of the river.
Yeah.
But it is astounding when a natural element, a river, a sea, etc., because you can't. In Alaska's the same way when it, no matter where you are, you're looking at mountain ranges, and everywhere you look, it's astounding. Everywhere you turn, 360 degrees, no matter where you are, and so it's a constant bombardment
Of sensory
of beauty,
exhilaration. Yeah.
And when you're in the middle of it, you say, you say out loud, I'll never forget this. And it's true.
Yeah.
Because it's more than an image. I remember the smells more than anything, particularly smells in places like the Northwest, where it was after a rain, in Oregon or in Washington, and the views and the sidewalks were sunny and steaming.
The petrichor. Yep.
And good Lord. So it sounds like a wonderful trip.
And the crazy thing is that like there's this theory I've heard that the ancient Greeks didn't have a word for blue, which is kind of crazy. Like if you apparently this is how the theory goes. If you read the works of the ancient Greeks, they don't ever use the word blue, and like Homer, who was repeated over and over verbally before it ever got written down, refers to the sea as the color of a red wine. And it's like, what? Huh? Who? What? So there's, I don't know. There are these theories. I'll see if I can find a thing for the show notes. But it was the bluest fucking thing. And so then, to finish the story, then after the temple, we went to another place by the beach where we had lunch. I've never sat on a chair at a table on the beach where it was uncomfortable because the chair moved because we were sitting on the sand.
Yep.
We were sitting on the sand on the beach, and we had the most amazing meal with. I octopus and squid, stuffed grilled squid.
Jesus. Now, are they paying you on top of this treatment?
No. There's no money involved. It's just all.
And are you there representing your company, or are you there as a individual who has a job somewhere?
Yeah, there is an individual who has a job somewhere, but my company said, my new company that I started full time last week, said, "Hey, it'd be great if you could like put us in the slide somewhere." But that was all they said.
Cool.
So,
well, listen, I gotta go, man.
But
I've gotta.
Anyway, it was amazing.
You gotta.
And then finally, I did get to swim in the Aegean Sea. That's the. I was like, I'm in my shorts. I'm gonna take all this shit out of my pockets. I'm gonna take my shirt off. I'm gonna go swim. And I did.
Good for you.
I did.
You took the moment.
Fucking
grabbed
lived
it by the short ears. Well, as we close out episode, I want to give a shout out to my friend Roger, my close colleague, brother, who passed away yesterday suddenly.
Shit.
From a heart attack, and I'm processing that. But I've talked about him before. We interviewed him here on this show on our other podcast.
Shit.
He was one of only a handful of interviewees.
Yes.
He was planning on leaving for his trip to Europe for 6 weeks. He and his wife, because he said to me 2 weeks ago, "I got to do this before it's too late."
Fuck.
And he died a week beforehand. So my man.
Sorry,
my man.
Sorry to hear that.
Well, celebrations to come. He's a great guy.
Hell yes.
What a fucking brain, man. What a brain. More on him later. I got a book.
All right. See you next week, bro. Okay, that's it for episode number 223. You can find the somewhat minimal show notes at happyhour.fm/223. You can help support the show at patreon.com/happyhour. We would really love that. I need to fly business class more often, so give us all your money. That's all I can say. See you next week.